each of you have very busy lives and that being a volunteer for the Girl Scouts is a very big commitment. And I want you to know how much I and all my colleagues appreciate your work on behalf of the girls in Maine. And as the CEO, I would like you to know why I believe we are all doing very important work. So if you can allow me to share with you some of my beliefs about Girl Scouts. I believe that girls need Girl Scouts. I believe that parents want Girl Scouts for their daughters. And I believe that Girl Scouts creates a legacy of strong girls who make smart decisions and healthy choices. And I believe we offer a benefit to busy families who want to add quality experiences to their girls' life. And I believe very strongly that we can be a conduit to a transformational experience for a girl. And I believe we must continuously improve our programs, our training, our recruitment, and especially our customer service to girls and adults. And I believe we can attract more girls and more adults, more volunteers and more resources if the Girl Scouts of Maine can really communicate why we're important. You know, Girl Scouts began by challenging the status quo. In 1912, women did not have the right to vote. Women were mostly not educated beyond the 8th grade. And women were expected to be polite and certainly not independent. And the Girl Scout movement way back in 1912 began changing all that. But you know, in 2015, there are still millions of girls and women around the world who do not have a voice in their own lives. They do not have the right to be educated, and many do not have the most basic human rights. And I really believe that the Girl Scout movement can change that. You know, here in this country, we have 2 million girls in Girl Scouts, and we have 800,000 adult members and volunteers. Yay! We also have 59 million living alumni. That is 1 out of every 2 adult women in this country is a Girl Scout alum. And did you know that 58% of the women in the 114th Congress is a Girl Scout alum? And that 75% of the current female senators are Girl Scout alum? And every female Secretary of State in the U.S. is a former Girl Scout. That's Madeleine Albright, Condoleezza Rice, and Hillary Clinton. And as far as women in business, 52% are also Girl Scout alum. So just remember this, the Girl Scouts is not just an organization. We are a movement, and you are an important part of it. So without you, there'd be no Girl Scouts, no question about it. So I just want to say thank you, and thank you for your service. It's so very important.
Isn't it so important for us to all remember that too, and how each of us plays into the movement and how we represent the movement.
Very true. I agree. I think we sort of lose sight of the largeness of what we do, if that's a word I can use in this context. And you know, we get bogged down with the daily deadlies and some of the frustrations that we all come across and have. And it's not easy working with girls and sometimes working with other volunteers. So it takes really a huge courageous commitment. But again, to realize that you are part of something so much bigger that you can be proud of, and knowing that I believe too, so many small things done in a girl's life that helps her in some way, sometimes without even a volunteer perhaps even realizing it, but just the fact that they have an adult who's listening to them, maybe guiding them in some way, can make such a huge difference for that child that even maybe they don't realize until upon reflection, maybe even years later, that they said, you know, that moment or that experience did something for me. And that's what I mean by transformational experience. We are able to provide those opportunities, and again, it's all through our wonderful volunteers.
Isn't it the idea of things that come up years later, girls realizing years later, grown-ups realizing years later, what a huge impact just a teeny tiny moment has. One of my friends who's been a Girl Scout leader forever, she was at the grocery store, and the checker had been one of her Girl Scouts who had dropped out after a couple of years. But she said, Miss Kathy, do you still do Girl Scouts? Do you still sing songs? Remember that time we went camping and Kathy's standing in line crying? I listening to Kathy's story, I'm crying. But, you know, it's that thing of, as an 8-year-old, she knew it was a big deal, but not as big a deal as a 25-year-old when she had her own 5-year-old. She realized that was huge, and she became one of our volunteers.
Yeah,
Yay.
awesome.
So
yeah,
one of those moments that, in the moments of frustration of, oh, it's so cold at this cookie booth, or oh, it's so hard to work with this co-leader, this girl, this whoever. Knowing that sticking with it and staying true.
Absolutely.
We're part of a movement that makes a huge difference in individual life.
Right, right.
And so how neat to get to be not just part of that movement, but a mucky muck, right?
Oh yes, a big mucky muck. Well, you know, it is somewhat full circle for me too. I too was a Girl Scout, and kind of going back on the reflection piece, I was extremely shy, hard to believe today, but extremely shy, very quiet. But I had the opportunity to be in a little skit, and with my Girl Scout troop. Believe me, nothing noteworthy in terms of any theatrics, but I ad-libbed a line that got a laugh. That was probably the first laugh of my life. And yet there was a certain bonding because everyone thought it was great. There was just something about that moment that made me feel very much like I belonged, as opposed to being sort of like quiet in the corner and being scared of everything. And I also remember having, is it the patrol insignia leader insignia, where, you know, I got to collect the dues for that day. And I was just so proud that I had been chosen and I could do that little job. And, you know, again, these seem so inconsequential, you know, even when you think about it in the course of your life or your experiences. But those are the moments where I felt that I had just gained a step into confidence. I had felt a little bit more that I could do things. And you know, I just think that, again, it's upon reflection that I see that those were little tiny transformational moments. And that's what we can provide girls.
Right. Those Ray Bradbury moments that make a big difference.
Right. The butterfly effect or whatever that is.
Exactly. I didn't know if you would know what I was talking about.
Yes.
Absolutely. What's this say? Oh, I'm sorry. I'll speak closer to the microphone. Is that better, Suzanne? Suzanne was saying that they could barely hear me. So tell us a little bit about what brought you here, besides you're getting a laugh as a Girl Scout. I'm sure that was a key step. Where did it go? What else brought you here?
Sure. Well, before being CEO, was actually the CFO here, the Chief Financial Officer. So I started here in 2003, so about 10, 11 years doing that job. And then when Joan McDonald retired, I was definitely interested in leading this council, and I did apply. And after a pretty thorough search process, I was, you know, delighted to be chosen as the CEO. I have a background that goes back about 30 years. Yes, I am that old. And I started my life, I have a graduate degree in professional accounting. I know how incredibly boring could that possibly be, but it's true. Back in the day, women in finances were a rarity, and so I had to pay back my school loans, and I had an aptitude for math and finances, so that's the path I went into. So I was an accountant, actually an auditor with a Big 8 audit firm. That's how I started off. And I ended up working for a client that was a nonprofit, a big nonprofit, as their finance person. And after a few years of that, I ended up working for United Way, also as in Greater Portland, also as their CFO. And then there was also a change of leadership where we got a new executive director who was Meg Baxter. Some people might know her. And I actually took her position since I was the interim CEO while they're in the search process. And I took her position so that I could actually work more with volunteers. And as the agency relations director, I worked with over 100 volunteers every year in a variety of committee settings, determining where the campaign monies would go, and also looking at agencies and knowing about them, allowing them to become new members of United Way, etc. And then I went into private business. I was also with the Chamber of Commerce for a couple of years. I've been an investment broker. But then really when I got the job here as CFO, I have to say that I felt that I had come home. Mm-hmm. And so there's just something very special about Girl Scouts from my early childhood mm-hmm. to today. And so that's sort of my little history.
Yeah. But isn't that neat? All the different experiences that you've had that have informed it, the different ways you've worked in mm-hmm. volunteer organizations, nonprofit organizations. You took some time away from your career too, didn't you?
I did. I actually had the experience where, well, first of all, it was the lovely snowstorm or ice storm of whatever year that was.
1998.
Yes, thank you. And our house came very close to getting destroyed by the trees in our yard. And it was very strange because only certain parts of the state, and Portland too, that were affected. And you'd go 3 or 4 miles down the road and there was absolutely nothing. Very strange. But that happened, and also my mother was diagnosed with leukemia that year. And so a number of things just kind of came together, and I said I'd take some time off. And originally I thought I would take maybe 3 months, and it ended up being 9 months, which I was very grateful for that experience. Just kind of get off the merry-go-round for a while, but also to do things that I always personally wanted to do. My children were still in grade and high school, so I was able to connect a little bit more there. So that I really cherished that time. I think it kind of reconnected me with myself and allowed me to think about where I wanted to go at the next steps professionally.
Mm-hmm. And I liked hearing about that because it's like, oh, I understand that idea of taking time out of my career and finding those other things or changing positions, and so having different perspectives. So mm-hmm. it made you more accessible for me. What about with all that background going forward? What do you see for Girl Scouts of Maine?
Well, I see a lot of challenges. Clearly, our demographics, being as one of the oldest nation or state in the nation, obviously puts some real pressure on the fact that we have fewer available girls than other states. And, of course, we always want to see an increase in our membership and our outreach. So that is a very large challenge, which, unfortunately, there's really not much that we can do about that. But I think we can provide better services to our girls, better services in communication with our volunteers, and I think that's where I see my role is driving towards continuous improvement to have a better customer experience for both girls and for adult volunteers, and particularly troop leaders. And one of the things I might mention is that Girl Scouts of the USA is developing a new system, a new technology that will be coming to all councils over the next two years or so. And that technology is really structured so that we will have better engagement with our customers. And hopefully you don't mind my using the word customer. Sometimes people aren't overly crazy about that particular connotation, but I think too when we use the word customer, we have to not take our members for granted. Right. We have to realize that they are our customers, that we are serving them, and that we need to pay attention just like we would be if we were in a real retail operation. And so this technology system is called the Customer Engagement Initiative. And it really has the intent to have a better set of methods to communicate with our volunteers, including, and we're so excited about this piece, an electronic toolkit for leaders so that they can access from their own computers or even their cell phones information that will help them lead troops and serve girls. Things like planning meetings, being able to communicate with parents directly. And so when a prototype comes out, we'll be very thrilled to be able to share that with our volunteers about, what's coming down the pike. So I'm hoping that, that kind of improvement, that kind of investment in something that is, more of an Amazon experience, if you will, for today's very busy people, that might help improve our connection to our volunteers and to our girls. So that's just one thing that is coming down the pike.
Yeah, it's an exciting time.
It is.
Seeing that merging of technology with the wonderful tradition, so you get the best of both. The best of tradition, yes. The best of the new, exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and locally, let's see. Oh, I had another question. There it is. No, it's not. You have to click on the right screen to make things happen. Actually, what are you personally planning to do in the next couple of years with Girl Scouts? What do you see?
Well, this Customer Engagement Initiative, the CEI as we call it, will really affect us organizationally from a staff structure. And so I'm committed to making sure that whatever we do makes sense for our organization, for Maine, and to do it in a way that we can transition to perhaps new ways of working without letting go of all the good stuff that I think already currently happens. So that's a very big piece, quite honestly. But I'd also want to get out in the field and meet with operational volunteers. That is something that in my role as CFO, really I had very limited exposure to. So I really want to get out there as time allows to meet with folks. I want to visit our camps when they're in session. I want to attend some of your training opportunities. I'm really looking forward, frankly, to the Natarsuie adult camp that you're planning.
For grown-ups.
Yes, make sure that's on your calendars in August. So, and an example is, even though I've been working here for 11 or so years, I've never been to Camp Natarsuie. So, these are all things that will get me out of the office and meet all our constituents in some way. So, that's sort of an ongoing plan. Certainly, I won't be able to accomplish all that in 1 year, meet everybody that I want to meet, but at least I can start making some tracks towards that. So,
well, and you have gotten started. You came to Transforming Leadership in November, right, up at UMO?
It was, that was just so wonderful. What a great event to see so many girls participating, making lip balm and working these, mechanical machinery and coming up with their own crafting of things that an engineer has to think about to build a bridge. This was one of the activities. It was just wonderful to see so much enthusiasm and interest in things like that for girls. And of course, women in the sciences is certainly an area of focus that I think we organizationally and movement-wide also want to promote and support. So that was just great. Plus, I met a bunch of wonderful volunteers, too, because you had a whole volunteer set of workshops, too. So that was great. I really enjoyed that. So, yes, I hope there can be more opportunities like that I can attend.
Absolutely. It is such a great event because we're right at a cusp of a wonderful time for women in the sciences and engineering and math. Every girl I talk to, like, oh, be an engineer.
Exactly.
You can do anything as an engineer. I'm a mathy. I push that kind of stuff. And then what else? What else should we know about Girl Scouts and Girl Scouts of Maine?
Well, you know, one thing that I think is of critical importance, and again, I'm delighted to know that there are some volunteers on the line or on the webinar, on the web, if you will, is that, you know, volunteers are so key to Girl Scouting. And without you, we would never, as a staff, be able to serve the 10,000 girls in Maine. It's just not economically feasible or even, you know, physically feasible. Logistically, yeah. I mean, we are in every county, and so it just would not be possible. But I guess my message would be is that we need more of you. And as we know as staff, and I'm not sure that it's that well known to our own volunteers, we had over 1,000 girls on our wait list at the end of our last fiscal year. You know, these are girls that we could not serve. Why? Because we did not have enough volunteers who would be, in particular, troop leaders. And so that's a big reason also around this technology system called CEI, that it's one of the reasons why it's being developed so that we can really reach out to new volunteers and have them become troop leaders to support all the girls who want to join, but also to make it hopefully an easier job, give you materials that are, you know, get going right off the bat and is at your fingertips. So there isn't as much lag time between, you know, sort of interest and getting you up to speed to being able to work with girls. So that's, you know, a very big piece of our jobs is, I think, to continuously keep our volunteers motivated, as well as look for new folks that can help us out. And again, it's interesting too with the fact that many of our new volunteers will be of the millennial generation, and you know, that's a very different set of expectations than us baby boomers. I was a baby boomer, or am a baby boomer, and so, you know, our perspective and some of our experiences coming into adulthood and all, it's a very different world. And so we also have to accommodate what works for our people that are in their 20s, 30s, and 40s now that are really very much a large source of our new volunteers. So we need to factor all those things in as well.
Staying on top of that, it's a lot to do.
It is.
Right, great stuff. And anything else? We're getting feedback. I'm not sure.
Any questions?
Yeah,
I'm happy to address anything people might have.
Does anyone have any questions for Joanne? Type in. Well, then I guess we'll post this, and if folks write in with any questions afterwards, I'll pass them on to you.
I'd be delighted to respond. Sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, this has been wonderful. Thank you for the opportunity.
Oh, I so appreciate your coming and chatting with us, and I hope people are going to come to the annual meeting in a couple of weeks. Get to meet Joanne in person.
I'd love to see you all.
Yes, it'll be a good time. Thanks, everybody. You have a great afternoon.